What's going on, guys? Ribombees teacher in the house, and we are here with a video which is probably going to come out of the blue to some of you guys, but your Bournemouth Ribombees has joined the Raikou Battle League, which is a VGC league which I'm super excited for. So a previous coach unfortunately had to drop from the league, so Raikou hit me up and said, hey, can you take on the team for us? So currently we are in week 3. Our team is actually 0-2, but we've revamped the team pretty heavily. But we did keep some of Don's original members, but we did make a few pretty big changes. So I'm excited to bring this to you. I'm not going to reveal like all the main strategies behind them. I'll just give you guys some ideas of what we drafted, why we drafted it, because there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. So first up on our team, if you haven't already figured it out by its base stats and its ability, we drafted one G-Max as we were permitted to, and we drafted a Sushifu Rapid Strike style. Now, single strike G-Max Sushifu I believe is banned and not actually allowed in this league, but Rapid Strike actually just recently won the Players Cup 2 for VGC. Wolfglick actually had an Sushifu team that won, which actually formed somewhat of the base of the inspiration of this draft. This thing is very, very strong. The ability Unseen Fist, allowing it to bypass moves like Protect and Detect and stuff like that, Wide Guard, all kinds of moves like that. And also its G-Max move, Rapid Flow, bypasses Max Guard. So this thing hits incredibly hard. Fighting and water is a very, very powerful offensive pairing. Obviously, being able to set up the rain as well with a Max Geyser would have been nice, but I feel like the Rapid Flow is just better. This mon does get Aqua Jet as well, so it does get priority moves, but the ability to just hard hit as much as possible. Surging Strikes is a really good multi-hit move that actually always crits, so very, very solid mon in general. Hits incredibly hard. Yes, it's specially frail. Yes, it's weak to quite a lot of common types in VGC. But this thing, in the right setup, is just going to murk teams. It's really, really strong on its own. Next up on the list is going to be a mon that I used in my original VGC streams when I hit Master Ball Ladder. And that's going to be Reggie Gigas, of course. Reggie Gigas with slow starts seems kind of like a bad pick. But a few picks time will explain why we drafted it. This thing gets a lot of decent coverage moves. It hits really, really hard, especially off that 160 attack. And that 100 base speed is actually surprisingly fast in a lot of metagames. This thing is actually very solid in the format. It's got great natural bulk to pair with it. This is a very, very good mon to Dynamax, and because this is VGC Series 7 rules, we can Dynamax anything on the team should we want to. Reggie Gigas makes for a very, very good max target. It gets so many coverage moves that I can play with, which I'm excited to give it a good use. And it does have an incredibly powerful max strike because of Giga Impact, so that is something to bear in mind. Next up is a mon that I kept from Dawn's original team. I've never seen it used in VGC, but I wanted to give it a try, and that is Zeraora. So I've drafted Zeraora in singles before. I've had very mixed success with it, but the fact that it is one of the fastest Pokemon in the format, it's actually one base speed faster than Dragapult, which is really good because I believe I play Raikou at some point, so being able to actually gain access to that speed tier will definitely help me out, especially in things like Play Rough. Knockoff will do a hell of a lot of damage to Dragapult, and Dragapult cannot kill me back. So that's something to bear in mind. Volt Absorb is a great ability, especially on things like Volt Switches or anything like that. Give me some health back while we're at it. It doesn't have the best move pool in the world, as obviously it lost Hidden Power, and it didn't get really that much of a buff from tutor moves. So it's still decent though. It can still hit really hard, and with that speed tier, it's definitely a viable pick. Does get things like Fake Out support for VGC, which, while Fake Out did kind of get nerfed this generation because Dynamax is actually immune to Fake Out, so that's something to bear in mind. It still has enough options that I can play with, and that's all I really needed for Zeraora. Next up on the team is another mon I kept from Dawn's team, and that is going to be Cinderace. Cinderace is a very, very good fire type in this format. Obviously, it's very fast, and with Libero as its ability, which is always legal in VGC, this thing can do a lot of different things. It makes it for a very interesting max target as well, because the Libero actually buffs the max moves. So that's pretty strong. It does get a lot of cool moves, does actually get access to bounce for max airstream and stuff like that, so I could definitely play around that if I don't need to max Reggie Gigas for any reason, if I don't bring it, for example, or if I don't need to G-max the Sushifu. There's a lot of power on this mon. It gets a lot of coverage moves as well, so a lot of things that might want to switch in on it don't necessarily have the easiest time, and given the fact it's speed tiered, just puts it in that range where it's really annoying for people to prep against. We're definitely in a very, very good spot. Next up is a mon I changed. Originally, Dawn had Registeel on this team. I thought about keeping it, but I honestly feel like Ferrothorn just gives me a little bit more options here, so we picked up Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn gives me a grass type, so now I have my Fire Water Grass core completed. I really like having Fire Water Grass cores, especially in VGC. Rillaboom was unfortunately taken, so I couldn't pick that. But nonetheless, Ferrothorn serves very, very well as a bulky support mon in VGC. Obviously, only with 2 weaknesses, a quad weakness to fire, which can be mitigated relatively easily, and a fighting weakness, which, again, can be somewhat mitigated. I don't have the best fighting resists on this team, but we'll talk about that as and when we get further down. But nonetheless, Ferrothorn definitely offers a lot of bulk. Honestly, in singles format, hazards is way more important, but still things like Leech Seed, Protect, Iron Defense is really annoying. It does get body press, so that's something else to bear in mind. But yeah, this thing's a really good bulky mon. It definitely pairs up very nicely with a lot of our hard-hitting mons. So we're really excited for this one. Iron Barbs is brilliant. It's such a good ability, especially as I drafted a lot of the things that really do hit hard into it. Alright. Next up on the team is going to be why I drafted Reggie Gigas, because this pick honestly should have been picked already, and that is Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing gives me my fairy, of course, and now I have a fairy and a steel, so we're just missing a dragon now. But Weezing Galar with neutralizing gas can actually turn off all abilities, including Reggie Gigas' slow start, as it turns off all Pokemon on the field, which means that these two pair up very well together, because you can literally just max the Reggie Gigas and then just do a hell of a lot of damage without the slow start. You do have the disadvantage, though, of if Weezing goes down, then Reggie Gigas does actually go into slow start, so its speed and attack set is halved. So you just got to bear that in mind when you do play this combo, but it is a very, very potent pair. It's got great natural physical bulk as well, which helps it out against things like Metagross. You can actually run a lot of speed on this thing to outspeed Metagross and stuff like that, and then potentially burn it with a Will-O-Wisp, things like that. So there's a lot of potential with Weezing. I really like it as a bulky fairy. It's also a good poison type, so it can annoy things like Whimsicott and stuff like that. It should Whimsicott be picked up and traded from another team. I believe Whimsicott's actually not drafted right now, which is wild. Whimsicott's phenomenal in VGC. Definitely should be drafted, but I wanted to draft this core because I've used this core myself. Next up is another mon from my VGC team when I streamed some VGC battles, and that is Colossal. Just regular Colossal, not G-Max Colossal, as another team has G-Max Colossal, so unfortunately I couldn't draft it. But with the Steam Engine, it's actually very, very strong. If you can proc it safely, then you can get +6 speed. You can use it in this mon with things like Weakness Policy. I've run that a few times. I've also run like Power Herb, Meteor Beam, stuff like that. There's a lot of cool sets Colossal can run that can be really, really fun to use, so I'm excited to give it a go. I don't have the best way to self-proc the Weakness Policy. I guess I can essentially like Pyro Ball into it with Cinderace, stuff like that with this current team. Zeraora does get Fire Punch, but the problem is those do a lot of damage to Colossal, so unless I'm maxing Colossal, it's not really worth doing that. So we'll see. But it does give me an extra max target, which is always nice. We've actually got some really good max targets on this team, so I'm excited to give them a go. But Colossal for a tier 3 mon feels pretty nice. Just to point it out for you guys, Reggie Gigas and Zeraora were tier 1, Cinderace, Ferrothorn, and Galarian Weezing were tier 2. And these next couple of picks are all tier 3. So Colossal is the first tier 3 pick. So I was looking down the list to see if I can find a way to safely proc a Steam Engine from my own side in case I really wanted to. And I found Weevil sitting in tier 3. Now Weevil actually originally was not on the tier list, but I spoke to Rhycoustic and I asked him about it because there was an error on the tier list where one Pokemon was in tier 3 and tier 4. So I asked him about putting Weevil in tier 3 because obviously that would make sense. But yeah, Yeah, so thankfully Raikusik was nice enough to give me that. But Weevil is actually very, very interesting. It does get Fake Out as well. It does get Ice Shard priority, which is always nice. Sadly, no Sucker Punch, which would have been perfect, but we don't need to worry about that. But Weevil actually has a very, very cool little tech with Colossal. I'm not going to spoil it, but it actually used to be a thing in earlier VGC seasons. I think it was in Series 3 or 4 when it kind of got a bit of usage. But yeah, definitely a very, very cool mon. It's got a good speed tier as well, which really helps out our team. Our speed tiers are actually very, very strong right now. You know, things like the Sushifu, Reggie Gigas, Cinderace, and Weevil all being 100 plus. So definitely very, very strong. Well, actually, Shifu's 97, I think, but their speed tiers are really, really strong. So this team is going to be very hard to break. And of course, if Colossal gets +6 speed from Steam Engine, then our team's just going to be so fast and really hard to prep against. And our last tier 3 pick is going to be Haxorus. So we drafted a dragon. I was looking at other dragons in the format. I was looking at things like Flygon and stuff like that. But I didn't really feel super comfortable with Flygon on this team. Maybe I should have drafted Flygon, but honestly, I like Haxorus. Haxorus gets first impression, which is a really good priority move to have hold of. Gets very, very solid moves, and after a Dragon Dance, this thing's extremely powerful. Also, its ability Mold Breaker is fantastic. Obviously, ignores things like Levitate, which means things like Road Omelette would normally want to switch in on it. Can't really switch on an Earthquake anymore because Levitate's turned off when Haxorus is attacking. So there's a lot of moves like that involved. Haxorus is pretty interesting. I've never used it in VGC. I've used it a lot in singles, so we'll see if I can translate it into a very, very solid VGC mon. I've never seen it used in VGC, but hey, maybe we can find something new. And moving into our tier 5s then, our first tier 5 is going to be Thiever. This is a nod to Denistrio because for some reason he likes this Pokemon. Don't really understand why, to be honest, but it is a thing. But yeah, originally I only drafted this as a backup in case Weevil wasn't a thing. But yeah, Thiever, it's kind of okay with Unburden as an ability. I can definitely make use of that. But we'll see if it's worth it. I'm not entirely sure. It does also have Stakeout as a possible ability, which can actually do double damage to a Pokemon that switches in. But again, that's super situational, and while generally people switch a lot in VGC, I don't think it's a super good ability. Thievel's just here largely just to make up the numbers, in all honesty, because Thievel's probably never going to come to a game, especially when Weevil is just a better Dark type in general. And last but by no means least is a pick that Dawn kept on the team. And I was surprised to see this in tier 5. I think this, or tier 4 rather. I think this should probably be a tier 3 mon, but we drafted Togetic. Togetic, of course, very naturally bulky and has access to a Violite, which makes it even more bulky. In VGC it's very nice because of redirection and things like Follow Me and stuff like that, which could be really exciting. To give it a go. Cinderace is also a possibility. This can also max, given that max Airstream is a thing, which could be exciting, but honestly, I don't think it's necessarily worth it. This thing does get Super Luck as well if I really want to be like offensive crit Togetic, but I really doubt that's ever going to happen. But it can be a decent bulky support mon, which could be really fun to use, so we'll see if we can use it. Obviously, as a fairy type, I prefer Weezing here, but nonetheless, it's a solid backup option just to make my team a little bit less predictable. So, that is going to be our team. I'm super excited for this. I cannot wait to build and play our first match. So, let's see what happens. Let me know what you think about the team. I'm excited. Get excited for it. But either way, thank you so much for watching. My name is Ribombee Teacher. I'm your coach of the Royal Bournemouth Ribombees. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.